Phoenix, the first team in the NBA history to reach the finals after a playoff drought of at least a decade. They hadn't made it back since losing the 2010 conference finals, owned the worst record by any team over the previous 5 years. But all that helps you get better. They've been the best road team during the regular season. They've now clinched all 3 of their series on the road, which includes not 1 but 2 in the Staples Center, the first team in NBA history to clinch multiple series in a postseason in the same building on the road. And the man you just heard from, I had a feeling he would really show out in this stage, and why wouldn't he? He's a star. Devin Booker leading Phoenix in scoring more than 27 a game. Makes the Suns the first team since '77 to reach the NBA Finals, in which their leading scorer was in his very first postseason. But Chris Paul, the old head who provides the steady hand, becomes the closeout king. Dropped 37 in the series clincher against Denver. 41 tonight, becoming the oldest player in postseason history with 35 points in consecutive closeout games in a postseason. The previous oldest, pretty nice company to be keeping, and that's a hell of a list right there. He now trumps Michael Jordan, which I know would please him to no end, the Wake Forest guy topping the Tar Heels.
Most challenging year, most fun year. Not sure when you're gonna play. Ups and downs, guys being injured. Still finding my way in this locker room. First thing I told those guys is thank you for saving me. And I appreciate them. I appreciate every guy in that locker room. I appreciate Paul for getting on that phone last year at the end of the season when it was time to do a buyout with Detroit. I'm thankful for everything I've experienced being here. This city making me feel home. This organization welcoming me, my quirks, my strengths, my weaknesses. I'm not here to do it without this team. I'm not still playing without this team, so.
And I appreciate that people get a chance to see that emotion. Are these men well compensated for the time? They are. But this is something that matters. That you pour your heart and your soul into this. Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, you guys know all about what this is about. And one season comes to an end and another continues as the Suns move on to a championship. And Jeff, I will begin with you just to get your perspective on what it is that Chris Paul provided in a 41-point answer to what Paul George provided the other night in 41. How do you frame what Chris Paul gave the Suns tonight?
Well, when the Clippers cut the Suns' lead to 7, he responded with his best basketball. They needed his shot making. He provided it. He ran and orchestrated that period of time, that most important period of time, and he absolutely led that surge to what ended up being an absolute blowout. So an impressive response after 3 subpar games for Chris Paul.
Mark, you played the same position so well for so many years. As you watch Chris Paul from that best seat in the house, what is it that most impresses you that he brings to the table?
Just his leadership, his competitive spirit, his ability to be the ultimate maestro. He's truly one of the best to ever do it, not just point guards, but players in the history of this game. And he deserves this opportunity. I said it on the broadcast. There's people say he's not a champion because he hasn't gone to the finals and hasn't won a championship. I've been in those sneakers. I've been in between those trenches. He is an absolute champion. Win, lose, or draw in this finals, Chris Paul is a champion, and the stamp of it is taking this Phoenix Suns team that recently knows nothing about winning, knows nothing about the habits, knows nothing about building a culture. And along with Monty Williams, James Jones, Devin Booker, they put their stamp on this, and they are 4 games away from winning a championship and have a legit chance.
Monty Williams will join us a bit later. And Jeff, I as a guy who's, you try to lead teams to the title, you've been down that road. Mark, you too. How do you best credit what Williams has done in figuring out how a group who has never done this, I mean, they've never played in the playoff game together. What role has Williams played in getting the Suns to this point?
Well, Monty Williams is a man of impeccable integrity. That's number 1. 2, I think he puts team before self, never self-promotion. Even think about the awards where Rachel was interviewing. He stood in the background, didn't even get interviewed. allowed the players and the owner to get most of the credit. And I think he and James Jones in tandem have got the type of players that they believe win basketball games. They have their 2 stars. They have a young, promising big in DeAndre Ayton, and then they got around them enough shooting, skill, and toughness that allows you to play for it all. So the combination of roster building and Monty Williams' leadership and X and O's ability, I think, has driven them to heights I don't think anyone expected in the preseason.
And I wrote down a word you just said, which is allow. I feel like that's an important word, Mark, because it seems to me, and you guys would know so much better, that Monty allows them to be who they are and what they are, while at the same time still trying to get him to do what he hopes they might. Is that a fair representation of what Williams brings?
Well, absolutely. He said at times during his younger days of coaching, he tried to overcoach. Now he's realized to let go of the rope and allow the guys to be themselves and teach them. But the biggest thing to me that he does is he lets them know by his actions, by the way he treats them, that he gives a crap about them, that he truly loves his players. And when you love guys, they will respond with what they do in between the lines. And they have responded with putting him in position to be a championship coach. What a wonderful job he's done.
And that's wonderfully said, gentlemen. As always, time appreciated. We'll talk during the finals. I thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Game 6 was the 290th in the history of the Suns franchise. That's the most postseason games played among NBA franchises without a championship. That's 4 more than the Jazz. Next on the list, the Pacers, Nuggets. Smith and Michael Wilbon to the show. And gentlemen, I'll begin with Chris Paul. I feel it's only appropriate. And Michael, how best to frame what it is that he provided this group? They had never been in the playoffs as constructed, and he obviously helps lead them. How do you frame what you saw from him in this evening?
Scott, I got to go back to the beginning of it when he first knew he was going to be traded, and it's know-how, it's poise, it's intellect, it's toughness, all of those things. There's so many more, but I think at least those few sort of represent all that Chris Paul is, and he really wanted to come here, meaning Phoenix, of course. And I probably shouldn't tell this story. I'm going to tell it quickly because it's an off-the-record story. If Chris gets mad at me later, I'll put some money in a little jar.
It's fine.
We're working on a project, a Chris Paul generated project, and so we're doing it on Zooms in the summer and in the early fall. And during one of the Zooms at the end, Chris says, "What are you going to do now? We're done." I go, "I don't know. I'll go out and hit some golf balls." He says, "No, I need a favor." I said, "What?" He goes, "Can you help me look for a house in Scottsdale?" I'm like, why would a guy who's already in LA with his family need a house in Scottsdale? And I said that, and he just pauses and he says, "Think, Mike, think." And I said, it took me a while, and I went, "Oh my God, this could happen." And what he talked about down there is the order that he talked about it. I mean, Booker, there were all those people involved, but Devin Booker was the big part. He, like the late, great Kobe Bryant, looked at Devin Booker very early on, and they each saw something that drew them. Mm-hmm. They loved everything about him. And so Chris wanted to play with Devin Booker, and he thought this could work. He thought it could work before anybody else thought it could work, other than maybe Devin. And so, but all of those things characterized the way Chris felt about coming to the Phoenix Suns at the beginning of the season.
You know, Mike Wilbon isn't the only one with an off-the-court story about Chris Paul. As you well know, Scott, Michael Wilbon, I executive produced a project, Why Not Us, with Chris Paul for ESPN Plus earlier this year. And a lot of times we found ourselves talking off the record about what he felt about Devin Booker. And let me tell you something about Chris Paul. He's not well liked by a few people in the NBA because he's an acquired taste, Scott. He's a guy that gets in your face, in your mug. He's incredibly demanding. He pulls no punches. He holds you accountable. That ain't for everybody, but here's what you need to know about him. As much as he's not liked by some people, he's loved more by others and universally respected by everyone because of his leadership ability. And so when you see him with his teammates in Phoenix and you see the way that they have this level of adulation and affection for him, what that means is they've bought in. They recognized a long time ago that this guy that is an acquired taste, if we acquire that taste, We might just be champions one day. That's the kind of talk that they were having during this season when they were one of the top 2 teams in the Western Conference, and it came out tonight to reach fruition. This is about the leadership of Chris Paul. A game 6, a closeout game, fresh off of Paul George dropping 41. What does he do? Does he answer with 25 points and 15 assists? No, he drops 41.
Real answer.
With 8 assists in 35 minutes with 0 turnovers. I'm sorry. It is the most special performance of his career, and it happened on the same night that this man is going to the NBA Finals for the first time in his 16-year career.
I think his greatest performance, not his best performance.
Yes, his
Scott,
greatest.
But his greatest performance coming here, getting them to the finals, fulfilling all of this. And he stresses over it now. Don't be misled. I mean, he wanted this, wants this badly. And so for him to make this happen here, and as Booker said, I asked Booker once, what is it like now that you got to be accountable to this guy? And he smiled, and Booker said, it ain't for everybody.
Right.
And you guys, I mean, he's a demanding dude.
And you guys both well know that whole disrespect or chip on the shoulder thing can be a played out routine. But he's fueled by those who believe that his best time was behind him. And I think he demonstrated clearly tonight what he still possesses. And now they have at least 4 more games to prove that he could be a champion, a minted champion once and for all. As always, gentlemen, your time appreciated. We'll talk again when the finals arrive, all right?
All right.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
I appreciate it. There's a yin to that yang. On the other side of the joy, there's the emotions of Reggie Jackson, who visited with us the other night. He is fueled by